Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and today's video, which is a versus video. So if you're new to the channel, basically what I do is I put two golf clubs up against each other to find out an overall winner. Now sometimes that could be the same brand, so we've got a newer version versus the older version, and other times they could be similar clubs to find out, should you be going for this version or that version, etc., and potentially saving yourself some money by going for older versions over the newer ones. Now today in this versus videos, I've got two very similar type of irons to look at. They're both players distance irons. They both roughly came out the same time. They're both now second generation, so they've been replaced by newer versions, so potentially means they're a bit of a bargain on the second hand market. And they are these. So I have the Srixon ZX5 MKii, which are my current gamers. I have these all the way down from 5 to pitching wedge, versus the PXG 0311Ps Gen 6. So both players distance irons. I will also say I have reviewed both these clubs, so if you want to check out them in more detail, do have a look out for them on the channel. They are out right now. So what I'm going to do is, as always, we're going to have a closer look at these two clubs, come back here, briefly go for the technology that's in them, because like I've said, I've already done the review. So if you want this sort of in-depth look into the clubs, do check out that. Then I'm going to get down to range. I'm going to take the 6 iron and the 8 iron. So basically, your scoring iron was sort of 8 downwards, and then sort of one of your longer distance irons was that 6 iron. And then come back here, compare figures, compare them as well through the ACS Golf scale, and give you my overall opinion about these two, which one wins, and should I be putting this in my bag over these ones, which, to be honest, I've been playing with all year and I have enjoyed very much. All right, so without further ado, let's have a closer look at these clubs. So there you go, and they're both good looking things. They really are some good looking irons. I hope you can see that. I have my blind down quite a bit in the moment in my office because it is absolutely boiling in the UK. Not complaining though, because it has been awful the last 2 weeks. So to get a last nice little bit of summer again for a few more rounds of golf before autumn kicks in, I will take it any day of the week. But yeah, so I hope you can see that. Well, you've just seen them close anyway, so there you go, but hopefully you can see that quite well as well. Now, these two irons, so they're both players distance irons. As I've mentioned, they're both sort of aimed for your mid to low handicap players who want more forgiveness, a little bit more distance, but also that control and workability that you get with your sort of elite cavity back irons. Technology wise, they are slightly different, I will say. So this is a cavity back design. You have this mainframe in there where they've sort of put it behind the face so they can move weight around to sort of help with that club, well, to help with the performance, etc., forgiveness, distance, everything under the sun. While with the PXG, this is actually a hollow construction iron, again with that idea, by making it hollow construction, they can move weight around. Both have tungsten specifically weighted to help with that sort of forgiveness. Both have thin face, mill face, etc., etc. And one thing I'll say that the Srixon has that PXG definitely does not have is with the Srixon, you do have that V-sole, which I'm a massive fan of. PXG, if I can get the iron up, you do not. I would say as well, maybe actually the Srixon itself is a little bit bigger than the PXG, if I don't break everything while I'm looking at it. Maybe not. I think with that black there, which is the tungsten there, it does give the idea that it is a little bit smaller. I think it actually might be smaller, to be fair. The top line, I would say, is not on this. They're very similar. They're very similar. and they've all got just, you know, not movable weighting, sorry, but they've all got specifically positioned weighting to help with forgiveness, etc., lofts, blah, blah, blah. Very similar irons. As I mentioned, if you want to get a more in-depth technology look, do check out the reviews for them online. One thing I will mention though before we go into the testing is the loft, because I think it's very important to look at that, especially when you're looking at the same irons in the same category, because even if they're in the same category, this player's distance iron, it doesn't mean the lofts are gonna be the same. In this case, they're not. However, it's not a huge difference. So if we go for, let's say, the 4-iron first, so the Srixon ZX5, 22 degrees, the PXG, to be fair, and this is where there is quite a big jump between them, 20.5 degrees. Now that's quite a lot, and I can imagine that's because they put all the weight in it, etc. So it's really going to help launch that ball up to maximise forgiveness there. While the Srixon ZX5 tries to be a little bit more sort of, you know, player's iron still. So that's why it's a bit more, not traditional at all, but it's in line with everything else. 5-iron for the Srixon is 24 degrees. PXG is 23 degrees, so only 1 degrees difference there. 6-iron is 27 degrees. PXG 26 degrees. The 7-iron is 31 degrees. PXG is 30 degrees. 8-iron is 35. You can tell there's a sort of recurrence here. 8-iron is 35 degrees. 8-iron is 34 degrees. 9-iron are both 39 degrees, so they're both the same there. Pitching wedge 44 degrees, so both the same there. And then for some reason gap wedge is 50 degrees here and 49 degrees there, so I'm not too sure about that, but anyway, so pretty much the same. They're relatively very similar. The only big difference is down to that 4-iron. Well, I'm guessing the PXG is just trying to get as much forgiveness in there as possible. All right, and I will just mention as well, both of these are forged. They're forged irons. They're not just forged face, they are forged irons. So do be aware, you know, you have 5 times forged with this. You've got forged here. They both have milled faces as well. So as I mentioned already, there are quite a few similarities when it comes down to the technology in there. It's just the fact that this is a cavity back and this is a hollow construction. So there you go. All right, now without further ado, let's get down to the range with the 6 and the 8-iron. I'm going to tell you the figures, and then we're going to come back here and discuss if there is an overall winner and if I'll be changing my bag. Will I be putting the PXG in for the rest of the year? All right, let's get down to range with these clubs. Here I am down at the range with the Srixon and the PXG. You'll see a couple of shots with both the 8-irons first and then a couple of shots with the 6-irons afterwards. Now, first things first, let's get into those numbers. So on average, for the PXG 8-iron, I had a carry of 152 yards, total distance 155 yards, ball speed 108 miles per hour, launch angle 25 degrees and height 93 feet. Really happy with that. 3 yards rollout, exactly what I want from an 8-iron. With my Srixon, I had a carry of 156 yards, total distance 160 yards, ball speed 112 miles per hour, launch angle 24 and height 96 feet. Only 4 yards rollout with that, and it's definitely one of those things, you know, really on the golf course, I was really going for it with all these clubs, you know, I'm trying to get my swing speed up to get a little bit more distance. So I definitely know on another day, if I did the same shots, maybe those numbers would have been switched around. These clubs are so like each other, believe me. Now going on to 6-iron, so for the PXG, I had a carry of 188 yards, total distance 197 yards, ball speed 123 miles per hour, launch angle 20 and height 92 feet. While with the Srixon, I had a carry of 186 yards, total distance 194 yards, ball speed 122 miles per hour, launch angle 21 and height 93 feet. So with this one, the 6-iron for the PXG goes a little bit further than the ZX5. However, as I mentioned, on another day, they could be switched because they're so similar. You know, really happy with these results. And here they are in a table for you. Just talking about the feel and the control and the distance, again, all very similar, very bunched up numbers, all relatively the same shot shape as well. Overall, these irons both do exactly what I need them to do as players' distance irons. And overall, I'm very happy with their performances and their rollouts as well. You know, these clubs are going to be able to hit the greens and they're going to stick to it. So good. So there you go, and some very similar numbers, which is exactly what I would expect and also what I'm pleased about, to be honest, because, you know, the whole point of players' distance irons is, yes, is to give you that little bit more distance over your sort of your elite cavity back irons and give you that more forgiveness as well, but it's not to be rocket ships. You know, the guys who are looking at these clubs don't want their 6-iron or their, you know, their 4-iron to go as long as they say their 3-iron in the bag, which is a different brand. You know, they want them to be consistent. That's the main thing, with a little bit more distance on, and that's definitely what both these clubs do. You know, I actually, on the reviews for both these, by the way, you're going to get different numbers because I did test them at different times, even though I did the 6 and the 8 for this one. And on the day for today, when I tested them, put them against each other, you know, I was really going for it as well. I was feeling loose. So I was definitely getting more, well, higher numbers, as I mentioned, that I would normally get. But on another day, when I've had tested both of these, they're definitely in that sort of range, what I'd expect. They're both 8 irons, 150 if I'm swinging a little bit, well, I don't want to say chiller. It's not really a word to say chiller. If I'm more chilled, if I'm more relaxed and more not really trying to knock the boots off the ball or whatever, like to destroy that golf ball. You know, if I'm on a golf course, I'm never going to swing as hard as I can on a golf course because you do lose control. So yeah, so if I'm swinging normally, I was definitely getting the distance I need for both these clubs around that 150 mark for the 8 iron and around that sort of 170, maybe a little bit more for the 6 iron. So both of them really pleased and definitely in my sort of distance category I'd expect for both these clubs. But just going through it again, you know, the 8 iron for the PXG, I didn't really enjoy the 8 iron. I just didn't get on with it, even though the second time I tested it as well, I just don't know. I have no idea. I think at the moment it's because I'm playing a lot of longer courses, so I'm not actually playing my short irons that much. A lot of them are either a wedge in or I'm using my longer irons. I'm nailing my longer irons at the moment, but definitely my short irons definitely need to improve them. But you know, with the PXG, carry 152, total distance 155 yards, perfect. You know, that, what's that, 3 yards rollout? Really happy with that. 108 miles per hour ball speed, 25 in the feet in the air, 25 degrees, sorry, launch, 93 feet in the air. Longest 161 yards when I really went for it. No, 163 yards, sorry, when I really went for it, 114 ball speed, and that thing just went up. So, I mean, that was only rolled out for 2 yards. Really happy with that. Really good performance. With the Srixon, 156 yards, sorry, carry, as I mentioned, 160 yards total distance. So a little bit more distance with the Srixon. However, I think I was just swinging a little bit harder with that, 112 miles per hour, so I was getting more ball speed, especially the fact that this is actually 1 degree less than this. Also launched 24 degrees, wasn't quite getting it in the air as nice, and height 96, so it was spinning up a little bit more, which is always a good sign. But again, 4-yard rollout, really happy with that. And I definitely think, you know, the 160 there was mainly down to longest, where, you know, I actually got at 117 miles per hour, launch angle 23 degrees, height 98, you know, carry 164 yards, you know, total distance 169. Again, a nice rollout there, and that's when I'm really just absolutely just done for it. So yeah, really happy with that, and definitely very similar. I definitely know on that same swing that I did for that one, I could get the same distance with this, 100%. I can tell that from the times I've tested both these irons, and obviously I've had this in the bag as well. You know, but normally both would be around that 150 mark, probably what this PXG was, to be honest. And that's the case with this as well. You know, if I'm on a golf course with this, I ain't hitting this thing 160 yards. No, I'm hitting it 150, and that's exactly what I get on the golf course with my swing. So really happy with that. Going into the 6 iron, again, you know, really going for it on the day. I probably shouldn't do, to be honest, when I test these clubs, because you guys watch these videos and go, well, hold on, your PXG, you test that, it went under, like, you know, 20 yards longer than your normal 6 iron. But, you know, that's what I'm always saying. You know, at the moment, I'm trying to do a lot of speed training. I'm trying to get my speed up as much as possible, you know, especially with the driver, which I'm getting up to, you know, every now and again up to 300 yards. If it's few over 320 this year, actually, on the golf course. So, of course, I'm trying to do it the same with the irons. And so the numbers are definitely higher than they normally would be at the moment. But, you know, as I mentioned, did the same thing for both of them. So that's why it is a fair test. But don't think this is longer than, again, improvement iron I might hit in a couple of weeks when it's a bit colder and I'm swinging slower. It's not. But that's why we have the ACS Golf scale there. So I can go through and I can give it ratings and tell you what it is and how it should be for performing. So there you go. Anyway. Onto the 6 iron, as I mentioned. So PXG 6 iron, which I have in my hand here, carry 188 yards, total distance 197 yards. Happy with that. You know, 9 sort of yards rollout, pleased. 123 miles per hour, launch angle 20 and height 92 feet. While with the Srixon ZX5 6 iron, a little bit shorter, 186 yards carry, 194 yards total distance, ball speed 122 miles per hour, so mile per hour less. Launch angle 21, so I actually got that 6 iron up a little bit more. Launch angle and height 93 feet. Still really impressive with both of these clubs. You know, 8 degrees rollout, 9 degrees rollout with this. You know, really pleased. Longest for both. This one, 190 yards and 202 yards total distance. Absolutely smoked it. With this, 191 yards and 201 yards total distance. There you go. 125 miles per hour with this and 123 miles per hour with that. Actually, this one came a little bit off the bottom of the face, actually, because I actually only launched at 19 degrees and only got to height 84. So that's why I had a little bit more of a rollout. While with this one, it was relatively the same launch, 21 degrees and, you know, height 89 feet. So there you go. But overall, again, really, really pleased with these numbers. They're all very, very similar, which is what I'd want and what I'd expect to see. Even if this is 1 degree more, sometimes with the irons, the reason for that is just to get the control, is to get that launch that it wants, you know, and I can definitely see that. So yeah, but you can see maybe with the 6 iron, which isn't your sort of your gaming iron, your shooting iron like the 8, and downwards, maybe I'm getting a little bit more distance, you know, because we've got to remember, I'm used to this club. I've used it all year. I know how to use it. And yeah, so maybe when you get into longer irons, you're getting a little bit more distance with the PXG. I will possibly say that. Now, if I compare the two through the ACS Golf scale, so we've got distance, feel, looks, price, and forgiveness, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. You will not be surprised that these are relatively exactly the same, which is great because that's what I want. These are 2 big brands. They're in the same category here. I want them performing the same because, you know, I hate for you guys to think, oh, I want a PXG, but it's inferior to something else. So it's nice to see them all very similar. And I will mention this was released in 2023, which is in 23-24, got replaced this year. Or was it last year? Yeah, 2023, and this was 2022, by the way. So there is a year, but, you know, PXG are doing it every 2 years now with their irons. They come models Gen 7, and so is Srixon as well. So I quite like that. You know, they're not bringing everything out now year on year on year on year, like your Callaways, your TaylorMades, etc. You know, it's nice that they do give that sort of break. You know, Cobra as well. But then, you know, with your more better players irons, you know, TaylorMade tend to release them every 2 years. You know, your Srixon, sorry, not Srixon, you know, even your Callaways every 2 years, you know, it's more those sort of, you know, your stealth irons and stuff like that, which they just turn out every year and really not any difference from the previous model, apart from that sticker that says stealth on it or QI35 this year. Anyway, so let's go into it. So distance, shock horror, both have got 4 out of 5. 100% 4 out of 5, great irons, exactly where they both need to be in this category. You know, for me, a place distance, you want it to be a 4 out of 5, you know, 4.55, you know, that's more for your game improvements, iron sort of categories in the ACS Golf scale. So yeah, 4 out of 5, perfect, really happy with it. Every now and again, you might get place distance in about 3.5 out of 5, but yeah, 4 out of 5, perfect. Forgiveness, I'm going to do the ones that are the same at the moment. Forgiveness, 3.5 out of 5 for both of them. Plenty of forgiveness for your mid to lower handicapper, and maybe for your high handicapper player who has a good ball striking with their irons. And don't get me wrong, 3.5 is good. They're both dispersion. Even when I was really going for it, was really good as well. You know, good solid ball flight. Very happy with them both. But if you put a bad hit on it, you will be punished, and that's why it's 3.5 out of 5. You know, these are not game improvement irons. If you want game improvement irons for Srixon, you go for the ZX4s. If you want game improvement irons for basically your PXG, you go for the XPs. Okay, those are your game improvement irons. You know, they're the ones that are going to get you that 4 and above for, you know, forgiveness. So yeah, 3.5 again is where I'd expect a player's distance iron to be for the ACS Golf scale. Maybe I could be a little bit harsh and put them both into 3, but they're both exactly the same. Forgiveness, I never noticed any difference when it came down to it. You know, I wasn't like, oh wait, hold on. I definitely would have got more with the Srixon over that PXG if I hit it in that position. But no, very similar both. Really happy with that. Looks wise, now looks, I've actually gone for the Srixon more. So I've gone 4.5 for looks for me. I think it just looks a little bit smarter. I don't know why, but it does. The PXG, you know, just that black can look a little bit battered. The sides look a little bit battered as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, this gets battered as well. And I just like that sort of shiny look from for the Srixon there. I do like that V-sole. but that is just my opinion. So yeah, so Srixon I've given 4.5 out of 5, and then the PXG I have given a 4 out of 5. But some of you guys will prefer the other look than, well, this. You know, it's just my eye. You know, both offset wise, neither of them are massively offset as you'd expect, and both thin wise. You know, the top line I think is a little bit thinner with the ZX6, even though the bottom might be a little bit thicker, so that's maybe why I prefer it. You know, I definitely prefer a thinner top line, but either or, you know, both really good looking clubs, and it's just my opinion there. Now on to feel. So feel wise, I've actually given the Srixon a 4.5 over the PXG a 4. Now maybe that's a little bit harsh, but for me, I just felt the Srixon just feels a little bit nicer. That forged feel, you know, if you've never tried a Srixon iron, it's definitely up there for one being some of the best feeling irons ever. You know, they are so good at what they do, Srixon, when it comes down to irons. Even their woods nowadays, you know, they're really good. And that's why Srixon irons are very popular. So for me, this just does take it. So I have given it 4.5 over this, which I've given a 4. This still feels great, but being that sort of hollow construction a little bit more, just maybe takes a feel away from it a little bit. But I still think this feels absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed the 6 iron. I was nailing out the middle and really hitting it. Felt really quite, not buttery soft like a blade, but definitely soft off the face, which I really, really liked. So yeah, so, you know, 4.5 out of 5, 4 out of 5 for that, but that is just down to my specific way I like my club to feel. And on another day, they could have both pretty much been in the same category anyway. But for me, the Srixon does just win it. Now on to price. So price, weirdly, and I think it really, the reason for this depends on when I actually reviewed this. So price, I've given 3.5 for this, and I've given 3 for this. Now I don't think that's really fair. I think the reason I gave this a 3.5 is that when I reviewed it, you know, the Srixon ZX5 had just come out. It's a new model, so you could pick this up brand new for really cheap. And let's be honest, it's pretty much exactly the same as a ZXi5, sorry. You know, so for me, it was there. But, you know, if you're actually looking online now, you know, this is actually going for 5 to pitching wedge. I think it's around just under £600. I'm saying around $770-ish. This is on like a second-hand market website, and I think you even got a gap wedge with that. While this was 5 to pitching wedge for £560, it's around $730. So, you know, you take the gap wedge away from there, and they're pretty much exactly the same. Second-hand market on eBay, I think this actually is a little bit more expensive than these. I've seen these go for quite cheap every now and again. So maybe, yes, I've given them a 3.5 out of 5 and a 3 for this. But I think really, even though the ACS Golf scale disagrees with me, I think the PXG Gen 6 for some reason wins it. I don't know why, because PXG holds its value really well. But for some reason, the Gen 6 isn't holding its value as well as others. It's still up there, but it's sort of, I'm looking at Gen 5, and Gen 5s have gone sort of on the eBay sort of the same price as the Gen 6, so I don't really understand that. But anyway, so yeah, so even though technically on the ACS Golf scale, this is a winner, I think it's just down to the time of year I did it. I definitely think actually value-wise, PXG wins it. Okay, so there we go. We've gone through the whole ACS Golf scale. So who do I think is the overall winner? Well, if we go down to the 8 iron, this was longer. If we go down to the 6 iron, this was longer. You know, if you go down for control, you know, this rolled out less for the 8 iron, this rolled out less for the 6 iron. The figures are so similar. I mean, it's literally one of those things they could literally be swapped. If I put the same swings on every single one, which I'm not going to because I'm not a robot, the figures could have been swapped. So distance, a draw for me. Feel, I'm saying the Srixon ZX5 Mark II, definitely saying that. Looks, I will go for the Srixon. Price, I will go for the PXG. Forgiveness, I think they're so similar, I cannot pick between them, and the ACS Golf scale agrees with me there. So overall, versus video, which clubs would I put in my bag and which ones would I play for the year? For me, because of the feel of it, the Srixon ZX5 Mark II, my gamers, wins it on today. However, if you look at the figures, there's no difference. So really, it is down to your preference. And my preference is this. And my heart is with this. However, if someone had to say to me, you can't play these anymore, these should be going straight in the bag because they are very, very good, as you'd expect from PXG. All right, guys. Now, I hope you enjoyed this lengthy versus video. You always know if it's a lengthy video for me, I enjoy both the clubs and I just keep on talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So apologies for that. And if you stuck with it, well, thank you. I know sometimes you just flick it off. But anyway, so there you go. There's my versus video. As I mentioned, for me, the winner is the Srixon ZX5 Mark II. But when it comes down to it, really, they're both fantastic player distance irons and definitely worth a look on the second-hand market or even brand new, because you can stick them up brand new for a discounted rate. All right, guys. So as I mentioned, I hope you enjoyed this video. Do remember to give it a like if you did. Do remember to subscribe to the channel as well if you've not subscribed to it already, and hit that bell icon, because you have reviews like this that come out every week. We have new equipment that comes out Friday reviews. We have versus videos like this as well that come out on Wednesdays, and other loads of videos as well. So plenty of stuff coming up. So do subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you do not miss out on that. And also comment down below, out of these two irons, which one would you go for? I'd love to know. All right, guys, I'll catch you soon for the next ACS Golf video. See you then.